Howdy y'all, I have an interesting video for you that's been burning on my mind for a while. So we'll start with the world as it is. So here's a little comic here. You have the ringleader of the circus saying to the troupe, "I'm sorry, I have to let you all go, but you're just not freaks anymore." You have the bearded lady, which is the most common person out here in the world today, taking testosterone, but is a biological female. You have, I suppose, a giant or a hulking behemoth of a character. I don't really understand how that would be a freak other than their size. Maybe they're like 7 feet tall, but so be it. And then you have somebody who's all tatted up. And it makes me think about the tatted up, makes me think about the genius comment Snow Global made back when I was working with him about how people get tattoos to husk themselves often. And how can like this is so common to see people that are like covered in crosses and things that make you stare at them. And I suppose it does come down to viewing your body as a canvas versus a temple, because obviously everything on this person's body could easily been drawn out, and they could hold on to an art gallery of those things, and they wouldn't have all the complications or infections or complications from getting all those tattoos. Bible obviously speaks out against tattoos for good reason, because if you think about it, your body is on loan. You are your spirit on the inside. So if you cut up your body, that's what tattooing is, then you're saying you don't value this amazing vessel that we've been given that can heal on its own. It is capable of many amazing things and is undoubtedly hindered by getting tattoos everywhere. I guarantee people's telepathy is negatively impacted by getting tattoos everywhere, and so forth. But this is just the state of our world that, yeah, like the circus is everywhere. It's not something far fetched or difficult to find. It's all around you. And it makes me laugh about Barnum and Bailey going under, the biggest circus act going under, because they're like, well, we can't compete with, you know, the world stage because it's just so plainly ludicrous at this point. But the essence of this video, that's a primer. The essence of this video really is legalese, looking at what we've been presented in media and just in general, what lawyers are and what they represent, and how, in my opinion, it's this overly complex, nonsensical play that goes on, which is far removed from justice. So here we have perhaps the most well-known in America, or one of the most well-known stories regarding a pivotal court case. And of course, it's centered in on the black and white. I hate that yin yang divide, because reality is most quote unquote black people are actually umber or different shades of brown. Most quote unquote white people are actually apricot or peach, and it is this kind of numbing of the mind to create this um, by this lateral the right word, but this complete division in such and to this day, I was blown away when the Black Lives Matter thing came out, just to how ludicrous it is. Of course, all lives matter, and it becomes this virtue signaling thing where, oh, I care about the people that are being maligned. It's like, I do too, but I care more about them in the sense that they're a human being. I don't need to emphasize their skin pigmentation. Oh, but they're being isolated and harmed. No, if you look at some of the biggest cases that we've seen, what do we have? We have George Floyd, complete hoaxery. Like very easy to unravel that one. We have Emmett Till back in the day was lynched apparently for whistling at a quote unquote white woman in uh, the South. I don't remember exactly which state of America. And again, another fake case. You look at the pictures of it, it's just nonsense art project that they use to get people riled up about, oh my goodness, I can't believe there's all these bigoted racists out there. And then maybe your average unaware brown person, brown, that same before various shades of brown person is going to presume, oh, there's a good chance that apricot or peach person is racist towards me and would throw me under the bus in a second because of my status. Now, I can't go back to the 1960s. I can't go back earlier to when all these supposed things were going on. But as I've said before in previous videos, I think it is a bunch of Orange 33 black magic. In this book, while it is endearing upon first read to read about Atticus Finch's character and finding justice for, I think his name was Tom Robinson in this book, that he didn't actually rape the white woman or the apricot woman, whatever. The reality is all that bigotry is hoaxery to begin with. The KKK. K is 11, the 11th letter of the alphabet equals 33. So they have these poorly, really dumb designed spookisms out there, and it's easy to see through them, but people aren't willing to go that route because they're so indoctrinated into this world, and they, I don't know, consider TV to be their god, or their education system to be filled with people that are trying at the very least to instill good values. But the reality is it's not. And if you look at this Atticus Finch character here, Gregory Peck, I mean, look at the wonk eye. The left eye is tiny, the right eye is large. That is hormone abuse. He may have a silver tongue, and she, right? But so be it. And maybe justice was found in this case, but there was all of this unnecessary, quote unquote, black versus white BS. And this video isn't purely about this, but often how it's presented, like I've stated, is this takes a big precedent. The racial divide, which is non-existent. It's more of the T versus regular person divide. Being in a club and being a witch versus not. So I did my little rendition of Atticus Finch as a faux, he's a devilish character. Got the goatee, all red and whatnot. It makes me think about other widely known court cases or films that are based on. I don't think I forget if this was a book or what it was based on, but A Few Good Men. How many times my dad watched this as a child? I've been in the background of this "You Can't Handle the Truth" Jack Nicholson scene a million times. And how a lot of these films and court cases work is there is this great bias going into the case in one direction, and the case unravels and the bias is completely wrong, and it's actually the other person who's in control or is of a higher status, like in this case, that was actually doing the ill work. Jack Nicholson ordered the code red, so to speak, in this military case with, if I recall correctly, some soldier. And again, the military in and of itself is a false institution. So that whole case is a sham unto itself. I mean, what is the military actually doing? I mean, that's a very worthy question. I don't think they let regular people into the military, or if they do, they're not given the full view, even close to the full view of what's going on. I think it's basically a bullying operation. They probably conduct sodomy. They probably have them do heinous things, and yeah, they yell at them, and but I don't know. Maybe like I've seen military people throwing devil horns, so maybe it is a lot of hoopla, and they're really just buddy buddy behind closed doors, and it's a big Martin club for the most part, with maybe a couple handful of swires thrown in, and um, beyond that, I mean, to me, from the outside looking in, at best, it's like a place for these people to basically work out, get fit, hang out, and have an insular group where I don't know what they really do. Probably some evil pedo stuff and beyond. And this was a book I read a while back, and it's along those same lines. I don't know. You can't. It's hard to fact check these things. But this Brian Stevenson, again, working in the South, representing, defending people that weren't going to be defended supposedly by other people because of their skin color and the presumption along those lines. They constantly have to set up false this false reality of the much maligned brown person and the evil, bigoted uh, white person, or apricot person, and it doesn't. That's one of their main magic spells, and I don't I don't know for certain if this is true or not, but it's a number one New York Times bestseller, so it just tells me that it's something that's designed to make you feel like Brian is probably a wonderful human being. I don't really know this person, but it's magic. It's magic. It's they may have fake cases, or they're lying about the extent of it. It's You cannot believe a New York Times bestseller on the topic of what legalese, people being given the shaft just because of their social status as dictated by the false narrative. So, yeah, I read this and I was, I guess, somewhat moved by it, but it felt a little bit hollow, just like when I was in freshman year of high school and I was forced to read To Kill a Mockingbird, probably one of the most commonly read books in America. Like this was, this is more commonly read than the Bible by a long shot. Harry Potter is more commonly read than the Bible in a long shot. And there is truths in these tales, but there's twists in them that are pure evil. Like when I was young, the way, like for instance, reading Harry Potter, I didn't think about the obvious evils of having this classism of muggles and wizards and witches. But it's so plain as day once you pull out and look at it from the outside, that setting up that is pure evil. If they had had this witches and wizards story where everybody's involved and they're performing white magic and there's no lower class people that can't perform magic, then that book would be fine. But it needs the muggles because it's a reflection of our society, and the magic they're doing is with hormones, not Wingardium Leviosa levitating things and so forth. Um, so Harry Potter's a pure evil book, of course. To Kill a Mockingbird, maybe justice is served in that the person who didn't wrongfully, who didn't actually harm this person or do the act, is ultimately, what's the word, acquitted or relieved, is set free. It's all of the around it. It's the heated courtroom. It's what they set up as a raucous South. Now, I'm only 30 something years old. I wasn't around in the 60s or the 50s or the 40s or so forth. Um, but I do not think that what they say is the reality. It's what the TV was saying back then. But I guarantee, I have never said a racist remark to a brown person in my life. Um, Never. I've had quote unquote brown friends. They happened to be inverted. It didn't last long. We would hang out. I had one guy I used to work out with. It's just never been an issue. Playing another person I play music with, or talked about music with. Um, it's just never been an issue at all. They're people, and yeah, the whole black and white divide is stupid inherently. And it's not just movies, but here's another example. This is a more recent example, and look what you got. The eye wonk. Look at the size of the eyes. It's insane how consistent this is. I look in the mirror, my eyes are the same size. This is hormone abuse. I don't really understand how it works, if this is hormone abuse from a very young age, but you can see this person is a dude, has no cupid's bow. None. Look at the lip. It's flat on the bottom. No, it doesn't go down. It's just big broad lips and wonk eye because of hormone abuse. And this is a similar case where the person here is being prosecuted for killing a boyfriend that was a very forceful boyfriend, and she had every reason to defend herself and harm this person. And there is a twist at the end. But people use the precedent of her being out in the swamp and away from society and like more crude in nature, but then you listen to her communicate and she's brilliant. So it sets up this whole story of, again, there's this inherent bias, and you want to go completely against it. Because, of course, it's human nature. We should have no biases. We should try to get to justice. But the whole court system effectively is this overt show. They wear the little suits and ties, when I would trust somebody wearing plain clothes, not somebody dolled up, and all the money behind it. It's insane. So with that, before that, the wonk eye. This is so, growing up playing video games and whatnot, many of the antagonists have this crazy wonk eye. This is King K. Rool from the Donkey Kong antagonist. Donkey Kong, of course, Jackass Kong, um, fake gorilla programming. But yeah, got the giant wonk eye, and he's pure evil. You'll notice with many villains they've got wonk eye because it's a slight. It's letting you know that the dark side takes hormones and their eyes do this. It's phenomenal. And what started my real, I mean, I've always felt in my life that the whole legal system is a bunch of hoopla sitting in the background of Law and Order and how convoluted it gets. My dad watching it growing up. And then beyond, people get addicted to this stuff because something about the human psyche. We want to get to the center of things. We want to fab justice. I mean, I just think of how so often in life, people don't say anything or commend you for doing good. It's just, that's the way it should be. But then as soon as something's awry, people might jump on you and yell and get really firm. And I'm not saying they necessarily have to yell, but to be firm is very important. It's a critical aspect of human nature. It's also important to commend people, not overtly, but to do so when they are good time and time again. And I think that this world can use some of that. Not overtly, right? But hey, I really appreciate you. You're doing a great job. And I love the work you do. And yeah. But what really began to stick in my craw was I was introduced to a character in my life, in my nearby where I grew up. And as you'll notice, this video happens to be 1 minute 32 seconds long. So, But this is actually the lawyer that I used to garden for, and this person was the wealthiest person in the town. Oh boy, in Connecticut. And my first client for my business. And how does that make sense? I'm a landscaper gardener person, and my first client is the most wealthy person in the area. It's purely because I'm a regular man. And the club finagled it so that, hey, this is the best thing ever for you. You get a regular man working for you for cheap. And I was working with this other 50-year-old guy that's maybe half my size, has veneers, and couldn't stop talking about his monetary situation and how to just build that up. Was the most vain person, one of the most vain people I've ever met in my life. I really genuinely hope they've changed for the better, but I have my doubts, I have to admit, because this person lived under their daddy's roof, both of them being flipped, of course. And what was curious about this person was, this is kind of a tangent, but they had veneers, like I said, but they explained that they had veneers because they got into a car accident and a pole went through their windshield and went into their mouth, removing all of their teeth. So that's a pretty insane statement. And I think that you would have the reaction time to back up or whatnot. But I took this at heart. What was curious was this same attorney, this attorney's his the guy who did the majority of the labor for his law office buildings had the same exact story, that he too got in a car accident and all of his teeth were removed because a pole went through the windshield and into his mouth. I think these little jesters are just laughing their butts off. It's because they want to fake the male dental palate. And this is what they feel they have to do. And they're backwards people. So we're going to watch this video and we're going to key in on what this person's saying and think about, does this reflect justice? Does this reflect what this person is supposed to be? Because a lawyer, right, is supposed to be supporting and doing everything they can for somebody regardless of the monetary outcome. They should be looking for the truth. They should not be taking on clients that tell them, I need you to lie for me. You're the best. You got to find a loophole. You got to use your silver tongue and save me. You're the best. I got to pay you. And too often that is what's represented. So let's watch this video.
What about negligence? How does it play into the outcome of a personal injury lawsuit?
It's the prerequisite, the fundamental requirement that you have to be able to prove, since you're the one injured and you're the one bringing the case. But it also provides the moral and legal basis for the extent of the compensation that you're ultimately going to be entitled to. And another factor is many of these types of cases are handled through the jury system. So the jury decides the fate of your case, and they want to be outraged. If they're going to pay you money, and I'm not talking a little bit of money, but if they're going to pay you fairly for what you've been through, you're going to need to show them that the party or parties that you're suing really dropped the ball. And
Did you already catch that? Why does the money thing even have to come in at all? It's about justice. Not talking about a little bit of money. What are you getting at? You don't. The system is so broken. We shouldn't have bajillionaires telling you that money is an important facet of this. It's not. It can't be. It's broken. Keep going.
Hurt you in consequence. So the extent of the negligence, the clearness of the liability that you can show is really set forth at their table is going to influence the entire outcome of this litigation.
In other words, make sure you document everything and that you have experience.
You see her hand sign? Hard hand signing.
It's competent counsel by your side from the beginning.
Get a lawyer. Don't speak to anybody that you shouldn't be speaking to, such as insurance adjusters or other.
Why is it set up like this big Shark Tank? Why is everybody out to get you? If you have the truth, why is there this big Shark Tank? Don't speak to anybody. Don't. Even when, man, the right to remain silent, just the whole system is this like tightrope they want you to think about. Like, oh, you got to be so careful. But then you just know it's a circus clown show and they just try to put you into this box. And this is, in my opinion, like the peak of the silver tongues and how to put people in boxes. They literally make their own law system that is that contrasts God, because the law should be simple and you should be able to defend yourself. And they shouldn't have to tidy themselves up and wear dress to the nines. They should be wearing plain clothes if they're a genuine person. And if I ever get into legal trouble, I'll probably try to defend myself. Or, and I've gotten into like minor things like getting caught for using cannabis while I was younger. Just stupid. I don't, this, the fact that keeps going. Cigarettes are legal and everywhere, but cannabis is not. I mean, it wasn't until recently, and still in some states it's not. Just this whole system is completely nonsensical. People deserve the right to use plants as they want because it's a plant that grows in the ground, and I should be able to get any plant from anywhere in the world and use it and grow it, so long as it doesn't harm the environment. It's not an invasive species, and I do my due diligence. Or if I have that plant, it's contained in a pot and it's not spreading like wildfire. And if it does, then I have to remove it, or I don't bring it from the outset. It bothers me so much that people try to control so much of our way of being, but we're here.
Non-essential personnel in the beginning.
Non-essential personnel. Remember the whole COVID nonsense? Talk about essential workers. We're all essential workers, right? Don't you feel like you're an essential part of life, that you have good things to offer, that you're a great component, you're a great piece of this great fabric of life? And there are a lot of good things in this world. There are good people in this world. And for people to put this vernacular out there, it's the same put you in a box. You're a POS because you're not a doctor or a lawyer, where you have to be an Orange 33T to even get these positions. And oftentimes they're groomed, and they're as RFTK Ohio and many others state, they're illuminated, and all that entails. Just that reminds me of like fraternities and hazing, and just that's how this place works. It's like the knowledge isn't that complex. They just have a complex outer shell around it. Like the medical knowledge, it's pretty crude. It's not that complex. Sure, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot there, but they make it like the system makes you go through holes that are sorry, not holes. Makes you go through hurdles that are ludicrous and have nothing to do with healing people. Listening to RFTK Ohio over the years talks about how these people are stressed out, staying up all night. That is not how you want somebody to be healing you. I don't trust these doctors. Doctors means adjustment. It doesn't mean healer. And these two arenas are hand in hand, man. Doctors and lawyers. They make tons of money and they give you a lot of BS. And they often do symptomatic things. They don't give you lifelong, healthy experience or help. It's up to you to do these things, and it's not. I'm telling you, it's not complicated. Like first step, eat really well if you have health problems. Get off the dairy, get off the animals, get off the crap. Okay, that's a big component. Beyond that, just be honest. Be honest about your ailments. You can I hate the word research. You can look up and dig into and study various parts of the body. And if something keeps coming up, then read on it. Read various books, read various things. See what sticks. If it doesn't stick, feel it out yourself. Try different salves. Try different exercises to really work it. There's so many different avenues to go, and go the more naturopathic route than the cold lab coat route. Go away from pharmakia, go towards the herbs. It's just people are afraid of God. I mean, think about it. I'm talking about the artifice here. Remove the artifice from your life. So anyways, I'm going on a tangent. Let's finish this.
Everything you can recall and everything convey that to the lawyer, and then make sure you have a good understanding about what it is you're trying to achieve here. I would say if you're seriously hurt, try to go to a lawyer that is not looking to close your case in 6 months and move on to the next settlement.
Okay, Now, if you look at this person, if you look up their, just search them, like search Connecticut, that name, you will find that they worked on a case for this Kevin Bell person who died in a fire, was a firefighter and wasn't given adequate equipment and died. Just went in blazing, and he fought for this person supposedly and achieved recompense from the state for not sufficiently supplying this Kevin Bell with the right equipment to survive in this fire. And the reality is money is such a sham. You cannot, people are priceless, right? You cannot possibly give people money to an equal amount to get recompense for a wrongful death. So the fact that they need to go to a lawyer is ridiculous. It should be solved right away. Well, what was the case? Oh, the person went in, the people were there were firefighters, they knew they went in without adequate equipment. There, it's done. It's give them the recompense. You don't need to go through a lawyer. There's so much hurdling and nonsense. I hear about divorce courts lasting ages. I hear about trials going on and on and on. And I don't know. I've never been to jury duty. I'm doing this. I've watched movies like 12 Angry Men. I've been around people like this. I've talked to people who talk about lawyers being slimy. I've seen the many billboards. My theory is that anything on a billboard probably isn't good for you. Why do I see so many people like this, personal injury lawyers, on billboards? Because they're looking to make money off of silver tongue. Oh, I can perform leaps and bounds with my silver tongue over the standard human person. Therefore, I can win you a case and get us the most amount of money instead of the right thing, which is money's not going to solve my problem. I mean, if I'm broke after something crazy happening and I was wrongfully harmed, well, maybe I talk to God. And I know in my case, if I was to have an injury, like what I'm doing, gardening, painting, I'm not going to blame it on who I'm around. I'm not going to blame it on the people I'm working for. I'm going to handle it myself and accept it and let God be the judge. You don't need to involve people. it's, I mean, if someone tried to harm me and did harm me, that's a bit different. But I think what's more common is this kind of thing where it's a liability thing and it has nothing to do with the other party. It's just someone got hurt and they need recompense for their injury when they should be given free medical care. It's this whole black magic world that America is and beyond. I mean, it's the whole world, but in the sense that we should have free medical care, duh. Everyone is an essential worker, duh. And there shouldn't be these lengthy, ridiculous cases over what are relatively simple disputes. It's only because people are narcissistic and want things for themselves. They want to see how much they can squeeze out of a case with their silver forked tongue. And the legal system is slimy and it disgusts me, and that's what this video is about. So we're going to go back to the slideshow. And this was an interesting bit. I wanted to compare the lawyer field to the doctor field. So I'm a dad. I had a child 4 years ago, and I think I said in my last video that my partner's now pregnant, and we're gonna have another child. And guess what? We're not going through the hurdles. And I forget if I've explained on this channel, but what happened to me was hellish. Our family was hellish. So we went to a midwife, maybe about an hour away from where we live, and it was okay, but we felt a little bit awkward about it. I mean, Swire, one of them, and so forth. Like, you're not a mom, you can't have children, and so forth. But we went there, and we had greater faith in them than the hospital. We didn't want to go to the hospital hearing all the horror stories. So my partner, she's in labor. She's about 5 weeks early, and she calls the midwife. And the midwife says, I don't believe you, and I can't get to you either. I'm too far away. I'm an hour away and I can't get to you. And I don't think that you're actually in labor. I think you're having like a phantom pain and you still have a ways to go. So I'm younger. I'm now 31. I was like 26 at the time. So she calls me and explains the situation. I was at work. I was working on boats, painting boats and stuff. And I did the first thing that came to my mind, which was to call my mom and have her pick up my partner and take her to the hospital because the midwives failed us and we're not prepared to do this on our own. We're nervous, whatever. It'd be nice if we had a village of moms that have been through it before, but obviously we live in backwards land. So we go to the hospital, we have the baby. My partner like gets an epidural. It's just evil what they did. They pulled the evil thing the obstetricians do is right here. So here we go. Obstetrics is the area of medicine that specializes in the care of women during pregnancy and childbirth. If you're expecting a baby, is important an element of your healthcare. No, it's not. To ensure you and your baby stay as healthy as possible during pregnancy and beyond. No, you don't need it. You don't need a middleman. It's just the reality of what I'm getting at here. You don't need a middleman. They press their head on the baby's head as the baby comes out. They pulled on the head as the baby came, as my daughter came out, and it was hellish. She came out okay. We didn't want a shot. They gave her a vitamin K shot. I felt very intruded upon, or we felt very intruded upon, and it was evil. And they took her away for a moment. I don't know what they did while they were away. I got weird vibes from every nurse and doctor in that room. They could have all been these evil reptile people. I don't know what they do. My theory is that humanity, people, real people, can live a really long time, and they can do stuff to you at birth that essentially limits your lifespan. And God knows what's going on and knows it's unfair. But we have to be strong, and our next child is not going anywhere near the hospital. We're doing it all ourselves, and we feel confident about it, and we can do it. You don't need these hand-holding BSs all around the place. The flu shots you see at the grocery store, BS. Don't go. Don't do it. Gets you sick. You don't need a vaccine. Vaccines is witchcraft. This big one. This is a huge. People feel like they need to go to a doctor because they can't do it themselves. They're too nervous. They're too freaked out. Or probably the strongest argument is, what if there's a complication? Well, I can't easily get to the hospital if I'm like crowning and so forth, and I have a complication. Okay, fair enough. But people have done it again and again and again and again. And actually, my partner, interestingly enough, she has a history of. Sorry, I'll go back to that. It's more relatable, more relevant. She has a great grandmother who was known as Mom Meter in her community, had 8 children of her own, and helped birth babies all around her village for ages, years and years and years, and lived to like, I think it was like 108, like over 100 years old. So she has this person in her lineage. And I'm not saying genetics is all that important, but I mean, beyond the wheat and tear thing, but just the idea that this system is way worse than it's ever been. In that sense, it's more invasive. It's ridiculous. And someone having faith in themselves to just put aside that whole system, it's the biggest FU. I don't trust your people. You know, a lot of these obstetricians haven't even give birth themselves. Right here, this is a swire. This blonde person, that person can't. The giant male hand. I don't trust that person to know about what's going on. I want somebody that's, I mean, ideally, a person who's given birth a few times would be the best, quote unquote, obstetrician. But really, we don't need obstetricians. Someone there just in case something goes awry, because they've been through it many, many times. They've seen it, and the obstetricians obviously seen it a lot, but they see it in this all lab setting when it easily could be let the woman have faith in her. Trust her to get into the right position. They have you on your back. You're not supposed to be on your back. You're supposed to be either standing up or on your knees, and that's what makes sense. That's what's much more simple. That's what makes it easy for the baby. I've seen many people give birth without all the complication of, that's created by being on your back and being in the opposite position to what you're supposed to be. It's just a completely backwards thing. You have swires working on you and you're in the wrong position as a woman. Why the heck, would you go to the hospital? Why? It's nonsense. Please don't go. If you're nervous, if you're pregnant, trust yourself. Look at all of nature. Look at all the mammals that do it without any help. Yes, there's sometimes complications, but maybe you talk to a friend that's already given birth and you invite them over, or maybe you find a midwife that's genuine and good, and you really vet them and you make sure it's a real woman, probably. Like, I wouldn't want to. It's just, this world is ridiculous, and so much of it has to do with having faith in nature and yourself and not in the artifice. So, to go to the Bible to end this video, Luke 7:30. You guys knew this was coming, the biblical of you. But the Pharisees and the lawyers rejected the counsel of God against themselves, being not baptized of him. They literally create their own laws. It makes me think of how ludicrous. I mean, I kind of agree with this one. The New York law to not have any supersized drinks. Just, I guess, to limit obesity. But it's like, if it's a hot effing day and I want a giant cold beverage, I should be able to get that. It shouldn't be illegal to purchase a giant cold beverage. I don't remember the exact verbatim. I shared it before on this channel, but the Alabama law around essentially sex and like being, I think it's like, it's okay if a 14-year-old and a 16-year-old do it in Alabama, but everywhere else it's like, it's not the same. That's not verbatim, but it's basically like their laws regarding sex are so much looser than every other state. And it's amazing how each state has its own little like feudal king, governor, handful of whatever reptile people. I mean, if they're not indeed reptiles, they act like them. They're cold, and disgusting, and make the world confusing when it could be God's law, which is simple. Just take the artifice out and breathe and be of nature. I mean, look at how casual, untagged bears are when you're out in the woods. Look how casual most mammals are, unless they're in vicinity of like a road, because then they're freaked out, or high noise. Go out into wilderness and watch animals behave. That's how we should be. That's how we ought to be. And there's people that do that, obviously, that know all the things I'm saying, know how screwy the system is, don't want to get near a lawyer like myself, and because they're slimy and they want you to get into their box artifice and pay them lots of money, when don't give them a dime. Defend yourself. It's not difficult. You can do it. I mean, if you're wrongfully accused, this world's hellish. Jesus talks about that we may have to go to prison for just standing up for the truth. So they can put us through hell. I mean, I have shared my quote unquote. I haven't been in literal prison behind bars, but I've had a job that was essentially, it was a COVID cleanup job. Like, it's a prison job. It was a fake thing, overnight at a helicopter factory, if you will, high security helicopter factory. Complete nonsense. Very much, very circus, black magic arena, and it's because it's an artifice, and it's this whole world is this. These people have rejected God, and they've created their artifice, and they take it seriously, and it's idiotic, and you can walk around it pretty well by being simple. I have another little story. I used to be an Uber driver. Ugh, it was a weird year. I think I talked about how I drove Tyra Banks once and how awkward that was. I know that was a predatory, let's inspect the regular man around here thing. But that's beside the point. I had another one where I was pulling in on the hill of the college town I lived in, Boulder, whatever. And the people that I was picking up were on the sidewalk, and just ahead of where I was pulling in. So I pulled in, and my side view mirror glanced one of the cars that was parallel parked, and there was a guy standing next to his car with his glasses on. And now I don't even think I hit the car, but I think I did. I think I like grazed it, and I drive on down, and this guy like leaps up from his chair and hails me, and he, Shim, Free Martin, um, says to me, "Can I get your like license and registration information because you hit my car by accident and I want to see this through?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I'm sorry. I didn't realize." Or I think I had said like, "I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. I glanced your car and I don't remember the verbatim. It was one of the other. It was like I didn't realize or yes I did." And I gave him my license and registration, and he called his lawyers, and they like there was nothing there. I looked at his car. There was nothing there. It was like he had like a blue or a black car if I recall, and it was like maybe like one little dot, like a speck that was like a slight hue brighter. Like what would happen if you were to scratch a car? It'd be like a slight hue brighter. And I'm like, dude, this is like gotta be like a 2 cent get Armor All rub your car thing, but he wants me to go through the judicial system for it. And I'm like, I was blown away. So like months and months go by, and then he calls me and he's like, "Oh, like I just want to make sure everything's okay. You haven't heard anything," and blah blah blah. I'm like, "No, I haven't heard anything. Like, is everything okay on your end? Like, are we gonna go to court or what's going on?" Nothing came of it because there was no case. He was just like reaching. And the reality is, if someone had done that to me, I'd be like, whatever. Like, if someone had like accidentally like punched someone punched my car, or if someone like, I don't know, I guess that's probably not good, wouldn't do any damage, but if someone like whacked my car with like a hammer, or like I don't know, a screwdriver by accident, or scraped it, I wouldn't even bat an eye. I'd be like, okay, it's a fucking vehicle, materialistic wealth. I really don't care. Is it going to affect the way I drive? No, I don't care. I'm not going to send you to court because I don't care. And you can stare there in awe because everybody else would, but I'm not going to do it because I don't care. It's a cosmetic. I don't give a shit what my car looks like. Like, it doesn't matter. If it can drive, great. If it has a little scratch on it, cool. My car is not my skin. I'm not going to tattoo my body. But if it has a little scratch on it, I'm not going to, throw a fit or get some Armor All or something and what's the word? Like, buff it. But yeah, you can just see how ridiculous this world is. And I'm telling you, like, it's curious to me too, because I've talked about, Snow Global a lot. My good buddy that just ghosted me, and the only video on his channel now is my song I made. I don't know. I have my questions. I really want to believe. I think he has a good heart. I got talking to him, and I know he has a good heart, but he called our Discord chat dark sentence, which was a bit weird. And yeah, he just kind of like left stage left, but he's a younger guy and he's living with his family, and I don't know how overbearing they are. And it's just this world is so toxic and disgusting, and it's really hard to find community. And I know very much part of it is just having the courage and getting out there, but you got to admit there's a big club, and you don't want to talk to people that are throwing gang signs and acting strange and give you weird looks or just talk at you. I'm going on ad nauseum about this stuff, but yeah, this is what is important, is to remove the artifice from your life. Medical, legal, remove it. It's a bunch of hoopla, and it's designed to keep you in a box. So God bless you, be strong, and recognize that the answers are often simple. And if you are wrongfully accused, guess who knows it? God knows it. And you can't control how these evil people are going to treat you. I've been put through so many unnecessary hurdles. All I want to do in life is make wondrous stories that have these. I'm making comic books, I'm making books, I'm making art, making music and stuff that relay to people the beauty of this world and give them life affirmation and pull them out of depression, pull myself out of depression through making them. That's what we're supposed to do, right? But when you create this unholy artifice and wear your suits and ties and ask for ridiculous amounts of money that most people can't afford, and just make people pull out teeth and do all this crazy stuff just to afford it, it makes you want to leave this place, and it's so toxic. America could very easily be anywhere in the world could be easily be more accommodating, but they just aren't. It's because we're in Satan's earth, and you have to pull out of the systems. You have to get off the conveyor belt of food. You have to get off the artifice of the legal system, and you have to, if you're going to have children and take care of them. Yeah, I don't go to a pediatrician. I don't go to church. I That's another video. There's just endless stuff to talk about. But yeah, pull out of the artifice and do what's right. I mean, it's simple, but it's so easy to fall into these entrapments because they convey it as being simpler when it's not. Don't take the flu shot. Don't fall into these artifices. And if you are wrongfully accused, God knows it. And be strong and pray, and hopefully you pull out of it, or there's someone good that's on your side that helps you pull out of it. That's the idea of like, oh, people always say like the police are corrupt, but there's a couple of good cops out there. The whole police system is corrupt. There may be some good cops, sort of, but Freemasons, that's what they probably all are. They probably all have to be Freemasons to be in that, and they're in the pedo ring, and just there's so many institutions that are just completely rigged and BS, and I virtually all of them. So you got to do what's right and accept that, sorry, is a terrible qualifier. Accept that as a truth teller, we have a harder road in it, but there's a beauty in that. There's a beauty in our strain for good. And I hope this video comes at a good time for you and helps you breathe easier. Come at you again soon. Oh.